Black who's going to go for it. Black for the 1 point to win the grand final for Halifax, and he's done it. Ben Black strike.
Hello, good evening, and welcome once again to the Fax of Life, your Halifax Rugby League podcast. My name's Rick Farrell, and we're joined in the secret bunker as always by the ever-present Mike Haigh. How you doing, Mike?
Good evening.
And we've got a very special guest this week on this show. It's been a while since we've been on, but we're bringing you back with a top-quality rugby league personality. We've got wheelchair rugby league, Halifax and England legend, England captain Jack Brown. Jack, good evening.
Hi Rick, how you doing?
I'm very well, mate. Long time no see. You been well?
Yeah, not too bad. Keeping busy.
Wonderful, that's it. Good to hear. So we're going to get on with another hour of rugby league debate, and without further ado, let's get into it. So boys, it's been a while since we've had a show. There's plenty to talk about, but I want to start with our guest in the studio this evening, the legend that is Jack Brown. I think we did a bit of research on you. We found out that you're the most capped England international of all time when it comes to wheelchair rugby league, all-time leading point scorer, World Cup winner. Is there anything you haven't done in the wheelchair game?
To
put it bluntly.
You're putting me on the spot there.
That's the way we do it on this show.
I never played with square wheels. Oh, French would like me to, though.
Well, we've had some shots fired at the French so far tonight. We've let him out of his case. You get to come on the show and say whatever you feel, and we're not going to hold anything against you. I've got plenty of stick myself for things that I say, but I'll continue to say it's my opinion, and opinions are like those holes. Everybody's got one. So anyway, it's good to have you here. For people that don't know necessarily too much about the Halifax wheelchair rugby league setup, what's the setup like? You play out of Caldale College, I believe.
Yeah, we play at Caldale College. We're training every Thursday night, so we always see the running team in there doing the gym sessions and things like that. But all our games are Saturday or Sunday, depending. Playing all over the country as well, from I think we've got teams in Dundee all the way down to Kent.
So you managed to get up and down the nation. That's it's a fast growing sport at the minute, isn't it? I mean, the international scene's growing. The domestic scene seems to be growing with new teams coming in all the time. But you've got a special distinction. Like I say, I've bigged you up there. You're most capped England player. You've won a lot of trophies in your time at Halifax. Massively decorated player in the game. You sort of see yourself as a bit of a spokesperson, a bit of a personality for the wheelchair game as a whole, just to get the message out there that there is this fantastic. I know you speak passionately about it often. I've interviewed you for the Fax TV before, and I know you're all about the game. So for people that are out there listening, what's the main thing that draws you into the sport?
I think some people like to think of me as like a spokesman, and I mean I don't see myself. I think the problem is I am just a little bit obsessed, to be honest. And I live and breathe rugby league, especially in the wheelchair, that way. But if I'm not watching the videos or working out some new tactics for the next game, I'm just thinking about it and thinking about the next thing. So I've got a real passion for the sport, and I think a lot of people latch onto that.
Yeah, it's infectious, isn't it? I mean, we were talking off air before you came on that you're up against it with the structures that are in place, but the fact that the sheer love for the sport that you have has seen you go on to achieve all sorts and be a big part of the game growing. So how is it you got into wheelchair rugby league?
I first started playing wheelchair basketball, actually, and because my brother's disabled, he started playing basketball when he was only a kid. And we went on to some the training sessions. We used to watch him training and stuff, getting ready before he could even reach the basket and things like that. But it was Malcolm Keelty, who's the chairman of Halifax Wheelchair.
Yeah.
And he was the chairman for this basketball team also. And he said, well, what are you watching for? Just get in and have a go.
Because, I mean, the elephant in the room when it comes to those sports, I've learned so much about it in the lead up doing my research for the show that, I mean, you are actually able-bodied. You were telling me that there's lots of concerns about classification and the way, obviously, it's maybe seen or perceived as a disabled sport, but you are actually able-bodied. And do you get any critics that say that maybe you shouldn't be playing the sport, or are they welcome into the fact? Because you've told me before that you can have 2 able-bodied players per team, and obviously when you got into it, it was you playing with your brother, like you said, who is disabled. So
yeah, the special thing about wheelchair rugby league is that they really do push the inclusive side of it, and it's like in 2008, me and Harry were both playing alongside each other in a World Cup final. 2 brothers playing in a World Cup final. It's very rare to be able to do that, and especially if one's disabled and one isn't. And even down in the grassroots, when teams are trying to get started, or a young kid who comes to a contact sport like wheelchair rugby league, it can be a bit daunting. But if you've got your brother there or your best mate there playing with them who is AB, it's a lot easier for them to really stick at it and keep fit and keep doing all of the training that they're doing and go a lot further in it.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Mike, what's your knowledge like of the wheelchair game? Have you taken in? Have you got your knowledge up?
I'm still here, by the way. Yeah.
Hey, we've got royalty in the house. We've got to go for royalty first up, I'm afraid.
I haven't, and as I said, it's not long with these podcasts that I can't plug my own radio show. But I had Jack on talking facts a couple of months back, and the one thing I will say is it's really, really inspiring actually hearing and listening to the stories about these guys playing. And you mentioned inclusivity. I think rugby league does a really, really good job of getting everyone should be able to play rugby league, no matter who you are, able-bodied, disabled, mentally challenged, and that sort of thing, with the PDRL, women's game, young, old, anything like that. And I think it's a real good torchbearer that you are, really. And you say that you're not like a sportsman, you really are, because you talk with passion, and that's all you want from a sportsman, really.
I think you've been sort of thrust into that position, haven't you, as well, with the way that you have performed for the teams that you've played for. You've really stood out and excelled at the sport. So you're more than likely going to be pushed forward more to talk about the game. I mean, I was wondering before we came on air as well, like your current England captain, record point scorer, most caps. Who would you say your equivalent is in the running game? Because I mean, just before you answer that, I know you have the distinction between, because you say, and I've discovered that there's no difference between wheelchair rugby league and running rugby league. You call the running game. Other than the fact that you punch conversions and they kick them, really. Yeah. All the rules are the same.
We got rid of scrums as well.
Yeah, I think with those big chairs, it might have been a bit too crowded, don't you? Can you get your arms around someone with your chairs next to each other?
Once I did. I got sin bin for it.
Yeah, maybe not do that again then. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I sort of. My best part is I've been in the sport from the beginning. The sport came over in 2005, and I was given a great opportunity with my brother to see the sport from when the international games were like what the development games are now.
Yeah. And
seeing it grow all that way, and I don't think it's anything special I'm doing. It's just I'm there. I was there.
Talk about talking yourself down. Humble understatement. Well, I'm just there, and I won a World Cup and came runner-up in 2 and won all these awards. I'm assuming, have you ever won any individual awards playing the game?
I got a couple of man of the matches in the World Cups, and I think I got man of the match in the Europeans. I'll big up a little bit. We had the Europeans in 2015. I was talking to one of our teammates yesterday, and he was talking about it. In the Europeans, we played France, who are the main rivals. They invented the sport, and they've been going a lot longer than England have.
Yeah.
But the final of the Europeans was England-France, and we in the past had never been near them, and we had a massive team change. It was my first time as captain, and the game was 24-all, and we went into golden point. And luckily enough, I was the one that were able to score the last try. And
so there we go, golden point winning, European Championship final, scoring, winning. Nah, we're just there. I'm just there to put the ball down. Everyone else did all the work for me, and fair play, you may. But I mean, so go on then, Mike. I'd like your input on that. So what rugby league player is the one that's absolutely plays out of his skin every week, and is just like, it's just what I do.
If we're gonna, my achievement was I didn't finish last in a running race 20 years ago. That's my big achievement from there. If I were going to make an equivalent, it's probably my favourite ever Halifax player, superstar Dave Larder. He just did his job, did really, really humble guy, lifted the championship grand final trophy, and yeah, absolute star there.
Here's me thinking you might have been a bit more ambitious. I was thinking Andy Farrell, Jason Robinson.
They're just mere mortals in comparison to the goddaddy superstar Dave Larder. There's no comparison of that. And what better sight is there than Halifax captain lifting a trophy? There isn't really.
Well, but we're sat with one that's done it.
Yeah.
What do you do? 3 grand finals?
Exactly, and I've seen you do it. I've seen pictures, I've seen videos. So yeah, it's a great sight, Jack. Honestly, but sorry, you are a close second to superstar Dave Larder there.
Well, I wouldn't say it looks like him anyway. Put it that way.
We'll put him in a wheelchair, then we'll see.
Hey, there we go. See, coming to my.
That sounds like a really bad threat, to be honest. Put him in a wheelchair.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about the uphill struggle that you face. I don't want to take it too negative because we've just got a bit positive there, but you are up against it in terms of you were explaining to us how much it actually costs for your. If you want to go take up an amateur take-up game, you buy a pair of boots for 30 quid and some socks and whatnot. You might spend 50 quid and you're out there, 5 for a gum shield or whatever. Might get them free if you've got dodgy teeth. You've just said you've done a fantastic deal and you've saved a load of money and you've got a chair for £3,000. Now,
yeah.
you need that to compete in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I've got one, but it's knackered now. I've had it for years.
But you needed to fund your original chair. And I know you're refinancing and improving now, but your original chair that's lasted you for so long, that was a significant financial outlay, correct?
Yeah.
Yet you get no help in funding from anywhere. I mean,
the way they've sort of run it is all the club at the club levels, they all set themselves up as a charity. So we have to really the sport is really run on grants and sponsorships and charity in that sense. And a lot of times we've been down to the shame and with their shaking buckets in the past and things like that. It literally comes down to making a bun sale at games sometimes just to be able to afford some inner tubes, because we'll blow one every game or something. But I mean, that's just one of the small costs. But in terms of like someone getting started, they'll have to get into a team, and if you wanted to self-fund yourself getting started in the sport, you're looking at a decent chair. You might get one for 1,500, but if you want to compete at international levels, you have to be looking at the bespoke, made to measure. They're made of aeroplane grade aluminium. I mean, they are ridiculously expensive. They just brought out a new prototype. Did the monopoly company who makes all the wheelchairs? It's $7,500.
And that's before you even have to transport it somewhere.
Oh, that's just the chair. That's not. It doesn't even come with wheels.
Oh, you're joking.
Yeah, so you got to get your. I got a bundle deal, so I got the wheels with mine. But it's like $7,000 for the frame, and then you're talking at least 600 quid a wheel and things like that.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it? And there's no obviously central funding. And we were talking about the fact that you've won all these honours and caps and trophies and records and whatnot, and yet you've been a complete amateur all the time. You still work full time, and you've never been paid. They're trying to move that way and make certain parts of the sport much more professional. Yet you've worked full time alongside it.
I've been lucky enough for my trade. I'm a welder. I'm self-employed now as a welder, but it's sort of a bit of a saving grace. So my chairs can last a little bit longer because once I've snapped them, I can weld them back together. But obviously, they only last for so long once you've broken.
This is my next question. Then, are you going to wait to Halloween until you put together a Frankenstein chair? You're going to build your own monster chair with spikes on the end of it.
I've already done it,
like something out of Mad Max with fire coming out of the side. And
I used to have one chair that was made out of really heavy mild steel, and it would made to fit chair. I think it cost about $1,200, like about 7 years ago, and the front completely broke off, and I didn't have any mild steel or anything like that, so I just found a load of scrap stainless steel. So it was just made up of aluminium, mild steel and all of the terrible welding, because I was like really rubbish at welding when I started off, and the chair, it was the Frankenstein chair, and the wheels wouldn't the casters wouldn't turn, so it turned wherever it wanted to. It was terrible, really. Weighed a ton though. It was great for breaking other people's chairs.
Well, I was just gonna say, people that might not be too familiar with the sport need to know that you do need that. There's some big hits that fly, and your chair's gonna need to be able to take some whack and hammer, you know. For those that aren't too familiar with the sport, then I would assume with the crowds, you were explaining that you might only play in front of a handful of people. What do you think you need to do to boost the profile of wheelchair rugby league and put it so that more spectators are coming in? Because if you're relying on grants, the fact that even an extra 50 people coming and spending an afternoon watching a game could make a hell of a lot of difference long term. Don't you agree?
Yeah, well, this is what me and my wife were talking about 2 seasons ago, and Leeds Rhinos were the first ones to start streaming their games and putting up their videos on YouTube and things like that. So we thought if we could put them up, even if it's just a couple of people who are in the sport from other teams who are watching them, it's still a way of putting a video out. We just need to get more people seeing it. And the next big thing is going to be the World Cup 2021, and for that, with RFL have actually, or they've won a sponsorship deal with BBC, and it's going to be on the red button.
They've done well, to be fair. I was giving them a bit of flack there, you know, saying that the funding isn't there, but they have really engaged you in recent years, and so of Halifax as a club, I believe. Do you work closely with the Fax Foundation as well? Yeah,
we do to an extent. We're not, obviously Halifax have their own fundings that they need to worry about as well, sort of thing. But in terms of they've sorted us out with the same kit, and so we can really be part of the brand and really part of that community.
I mean, it was something that was missing for quite a long time. Maybe it was strange because you were probably the most successful side that was representing the club of Halifax, and yet you were playing in a kit that was 5 years old and whatnot. Do you feel like maybe you got forgotten for a bit, and there's been changes at the club and they're trying to re-engage now a bit more?
For a little bit, yeah. I mean, when we first started, it was the, you know, if you want something doing, do it yourself kind of thing, and it's that mentality sort of spreads across wheelchair rugby league.
I think it spreads across rugby league, to be honest with you.
And when they do come on board, it's a bonus sort of thing. But we know that whether it's hard or not, we will be able to find grants, and we'll be able to find other means of being able to fund and help, especially the young newbies that come into play, and getting them funding. They're the easiest ones to get funding for usually anyway. Yeah. It's the hardest things to get funding for an AB person who wants a wheelchair.
Yeah, I suppose it's the old chocolate fire guard thing, isn't it? Yeah. You know, about the necessity. But I mean, I want to put it out there. You're an absolute inspiration for everyone that's involved with the sport, mate. I'm sure that there'll be people listening now that you know, you're well respected within the game, and you're an absolute legend of it. I'll tell you what. Let's talk about. You've had 2 games so far, I think, is it?
Yeah, we've played Hereford Harriers and North Wales Crusaders.
And how's the mission to get the grand final winners trophy back?
Yeah, we do need that. It was we was on a good roll. I mean, with three grand finals and now 4 Challenge Cups. Missing out.
Hey, round of applause for that. Halifax 3. Fantastic.
And we really were suffered a disappointing loss in the grand final, to be fair. It was probably the worst game we played all season. We went undefeated the entire season. We showed no signs of dropping off or anything like that, and Leeds came out and played a blinder, and we just stayed in the changing rooms by the looks of things. But
I think, you know, complacency might be a word that you might use.
Yeah, it's one of those. You can't really improve until you make them little failures and things like that, and it's hard to point out what needs changing when it's working. So you need it to sort of, we always call it the kick up the arse sort of thing, and especially for the less experienced players in the team. Like we're going into some games and you can see the beaming. They've already got the score in their head and they've already won it sort of thing. And I'm like, you still got to do something.
Yeah, I think that goes without saying at any level of sport, doesn't it? Could you see yourself maybe going into a coaching role in the future? Do you want to stay in the sport once?
Well, I'm
your play
coaching.
days are over?
I'm coaching the wheelchair team at the moment along with Wayne, my captain and things
So
like that.
player coach, World Cup winning. I'm running out of room on the sheet here to keep track of this all. Just one word: legend, Jack Brown. Fantastic, mate. I do want to bring Mikey in because everyone will think that he might have disappeared elsewhere. But the daft thing is, the game I want to move on and segue to talk about. He wasn't there because he was poorly. Hunslet.
I was, yeah.
Speaking of, we've got a Challenge Cup winning.
I was poorly in the Hunslet game. I feel very inadequate now since I was sat next to an absolute legend of the sport. But yeah.
It's been such a long time since we've done a podcast. We've got three first team games, results to talk about. We've got 2 Easter games to preview. It's Derby week. I can't wait for Friday. I'm absolutely buzzing.
There's not much. This is going to be a 3-hour podcast, everyone.
Yeah, this could end up being a long one. I'm surprised we've made it this far, to be honest with how we started. But anyway, we move on. So we'll sort of gloss over Hunslet a bit. I must admit, I was very surprised with how good Hunslet performed on the day. I think we spoke a bit about this on your radio show, plug.
Yep.
Talking plugs. But we just had that bit of class in the end. We swapped some things around, and now we gave ourselves a few more headaches than we probably needed to. We've put in Morel at hooker and looking well.
Well, yeah, you mentioned that. It could have been the start of our season, really, knowing that we have got a combination without Morel, because it's been kind of our Achilles heel for the last few years. If Scott Morel isn't injured or isn't playing well, who can step up? And for the last 20 or so minutes against Hunslet, obviously I weren't there, but you were there yourself, and family and other friends were there saying
there weren't many of us there.
And it was job done. And in times gone by, when Morel either wasn't playing or were out of form, we'd have lost. It doesn't matter who the opposition was, whether it's Kiara or Hunslet, we'd have lost. And in a cup game, you've got to win, and we would.
Well, debatable if you don't like the Challenge Cup, but I've said enough of that.
Who don't like the Challenge Cup, Rick?
I do like it now, though. This is the point I'm going to get on to. But we had a league game against Rochdale with plenty happening in between that. We seem to, you mentioned like it's the start of something. We've got on a bit of a roll, haven't we, really?
Momentum. I mention it all the time, momentum, and given what we've done the last 3 out of the 4 years, where we've got the momentum to finish the season off really, really strongly, let's start it quite early. Let's start it in Easter. Let's start it now, because we're going to get left behind if we don't. But as we're going to say later on, we're starting.
Well, we're still fighting for everything, so I'll take that. There was a league game in between the 2 cup games at Rochdale with plenty going on. We'll come on to that in due course, where we had a member of the Fax Faithful breaking the internet, but we'll come back to that. So we went past Hunslet, our dual reg partners there. Drew London at home in the cup on a Thursday night. I think everyone was happy with the Thursday game. Give us plenty more time to get the bodies ready and rested and relaxed before Easter this weekend. But what a performance! I mean, they were on it from the first whistle, weren't they? I think you were going to come now and tell me that you're Mystic Meg and you're going to give me next week's lottery numbers because you called it.
Never in doubt. I was probably the only person who thought, as soon as the draw came out, everyone's going, "Oh, what an awful draw that was," and I was the one saying, "Best draw possible. We'll win it. We'll go."
I did think we had a chance because we've got a fantastic record against London at home.
Yeah.
I would argue that maybe I was trying to think of when the last time London beat us at home, because I can't remember it.
I certainly can't remember it at all. If we'd have drawn them away, yeah, I'd have been as pessimistic as everyone. We just can't win in London, really. But at home, London focused on Super League. I thought they might have changed things around massively. I think they only made 3-4 changes,
right.
But they came to play, they came to win, and they were sent home packing, never in doubt, and from a very much changed side, really, as well.
I mean, I think Woody is making that half-back spot his own, and we'll sort of we'll tie all 3 games together. So we mentioned Rochdale when he got his start at Hunslet, got man of the match, made a few sort of errors, but it went to Rochdale and put in a fantastic performance, and I think he got a hat trick, didn't he? And he seems like a new man. It's a bit like we seem to have this habit of having one of our halfbacks sort of out for the first part of the season, and he comes in about this time, chomping at the bit because he's been left out. I said it's like man management par excellence, and I know it's maybe been forced by injuries a bit, but it's testament to. We're probably going to come on to it later. That there's been a fantastic podcast done with friend of the show Matt Shaw on Total Rugby League podcast, an interview with Martin Gonzalez. Go check that out. You know, they were saying like we're now starting to see the fruits of our investment. We've invested in reserves so that when we've got 9 first teamers out, our reserves are as good, if not better, than some of our first teamers, and can come in and not only that, but do a job on a team from the league above that we haven't. I can't remember the last time we beat. I don't think we've ever beaten a Super League team as a Championship club, have we?
No, it's been a long time coming. But going back to
history makers, we've got history all over the place. We've got history maker Jack Brown in the house.
Exactly. But going back to Woodburn Hall, me and you have championed him for so long, not just because he's been on the show but we all know the talent that he has, and we all we've been clamouring for him to get his shot, and we've seen the progression of it. If you give someone a chance like Woodburn Hall, he plays on confidence. We've seen him in the reserves and how good he can be there. Give him the chance. And Hunslet, he got League Express man of the match, and as you say, not exactly a polished performance, but getting there. Rochdale, he was the best player on the pitch by a country mile. Yeah. He was outstanding then. And then against London, you could just see he's playing with a little bit of a swagger with the kicks that he's playing, taking on the line with a bit of. It looks like he's really slow and he's like really languid style, but he's so successed.
He scored a fantastic try at Rochdale.
He did, as well, and he takes on the line and the passing that he does. But it just kind of going on to your point about the reserves. It's when we first did the reserves, it's kind of people are going, oh, well, we need to perform on the pitch, and we are doing. Performing with the first team squad's always kind of been strong. Could have been strong with the money that we had at our disposal in that respect, but given it's a long-term vision, sacrificing short-term for long-term game. We're at that long-term now from when we first started the reserves, and look at the players that have come through for it. It's fantastic to see. Really fantastic.
I've been saying we're doing things the right way. Jack, one of the things I've always said about rugby league, and you might know well with being involved in the wheelchair game, that rugby league is very reactive, not proactive. It doesn't go out there and seek out these things. It's not willing to go and put like we mentioned about the fact that you might not have had the support. I think you said that you played a few years as a player before you sort of affiliated with the RFL, before that came in, and things of that nature, you know.
Yeah, it is across rugby league in general that it's one of those. When push comes to shove and you need to get something, or you need to go somewhere, you need to achieve something. Who better to do it than yourself? And when you've got a team that can all have that same mentality, that's what happens, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'll tell you one thing that I was heartened, just coming back to the wheelchair game. One thing I was heartened to know was that the rules change just as often for stupid reasons as they do in the running game. So that gave me a bit of joy. Like, right, it's proper rugby league now. You know it's proper rugby league because everything's going well, and then they change the rules and nobody knows why. So, I mean, you wanted to mention about
a lot of them back when we first started before RFL, they really did change the rules like every other game, and France
game.
Yeah,
every other game.
Every other test match we'd have against France, they'd come back with a new rule, and it's my claim to fame that I created the rule for a penalty called diving, because I scored a hat trick in the World Cup against France. And I got the hat trick
because you were there. Just because you were there.
But every time I scored the try, someone would smash me out my chair and I'd fall out, but I'd land over the line. So I was like, all right, fine, try. And then next game we come to play. Every time that happened, everyone were getting penalised left, right, and centre after that.
I'll tell you what. I want to make a point of just sticking with it. We'll mention about the Challenge Cup before with the London game. What's your favourite? I mean, it'd be a miss not to ask you the question while you're here. What's your favourite memory of the Challenge Cup?
Challenge Cup?
Yeah.
Oh, mine.
You've won 4 of them. There must be a few, or were you just there for all of those? And
the best Challenge Cup. Well, the best Challenge Cup was probably last season against Leeds Rhinos, because they've really started developing and becoming a really tight knit team and really professional now and up there. But after they beat us in the grand final. But the Challenge Cup was a lot more of a closer and competitive game, and the score kind of gets carried away sometimes. It doesn't really reflect what what's happening in the game, how close and how hard people are having to work. But I mean, some I think Leeds first game of the season. Oh, what do Leeds? I'll do Hull in the Championship. Hull played a game against North Wales Crusaders in the Development League. It was 190-10.
That's a bit of a mismatch, I think.
Just a little bit.
Go on then, give us yours. What's the highest score you've racked on somebody?
Probably 160, something like that. We've got. They'll have got like 30 or 40 or something like that, if I remember.
All-time leading point scorer, try scorer, you know. Get in there. You've put the time in. Absolutely.
I just want to ask a quick question, Jack, as well. We've got in the studio. We've got the biggest fan of the Challenge Cup ever here in Rick Farrell.
Can I make just stop you there? I want to make my point. The thing that I disagree with about the Challenge Cup is seeding. If it's a cup competition, you can have there's already seeding in there because every team don't play from the prelims and the first round. But if everyone go in the third round, just because you want to give them less games to play for Super League, it grinds my gears that they only have to win 3 games to get to Wembley. But then Jack turns around and says, well, we go straight to the quarters anyway, so I'm wrong, you're all right, please continue.
Take a minute, Ricky. It's okay. It's okay. Come out your shell, say what you really mean. Given that you've got 2 competitions, which do you prefer in the wheelchair game? What competition holds the most prestige?
The grand final by far.
Right.
It's got to be. I mean, the grand final started years ago when we had a European league, and it was when Catalan Dragons played in the English league. So we call it the European Championship. And in that game, we were the top of the league, and before then, it was just about topping the league, and then you won.
Right.
So we went over to Catalan knowing that they couldn't beat us on this last game, sort of thing. So we didn't really play much, and they ended up.
So they came and changed the rules, and then you had to play a grand final.
See,
it is. Anyone that says that it's different sports, wheelchair rugby league is traditional rugby league.
Yeah. Then they just said, "Oh no, we're playing tomorrow in the grand final." We went, "What's the grand final?" So we ended up playing a grand final. Ended up losing it the next day because we all drank too much before the game beforehand.
Because you'd won the league, you know, finishing top and assumed that you could have a party that night. And I bet they only told you once you'd had your first pint, though, didn't they? Ooh, that's
once we had the taste for it.
Dirty tactics. But well, we're going to France in a couple of days' time. Mike will be our correspondent in the south of France. I'm sure I'm going to get
direct from the melting pot.
We'll see what happens there. We'll come back to the Challenge Cup again. We'll just talk about I like calling it the running game now because it should be more of a running game, not the passing game.
If we're tying it in with the halfbacks that we've got at the moment, he's very much a running game.
Absolutely.
As I say, and
segue there.
Yeah, nice segue. I've done this before. And he's again, no disrespect to Scott Morrell. Scott Morrell's an absolute Fax legend, and he's one of my favourite ever Halifax players, Scott Morrell. But it's something different. It's something that we've missed for a long time in terms of our halfbacks, where we've actually got a running game, and he's a lot more kind of direct in that respect. There, Woodburn-Hall's kicking games is improving massively. Ben White did really good bombs on Thursday night as well, but the actual running game has been fantastic.
Absolutely. I think Chapman Smith taking his place on the wing. I was surprised by that selection, I have to admit, but he scored his first try for Halifax. I think you had to have him in there. Would you change the team for Bradford?
I would tinker more than wholesale changes, really. If I was gonna, because again, it's the big debate. It's like, who do you replace? Because do you stick with a winning team? Do you stick with momentum and that sort of thing?
We'll come into that. But so fantastic. I mean, we're all over the place today. We're just so shocked that how blasé Jack is about being the record, or we've got a world record. But anyway, we're getting off thread here. Fantastic performance against London. The draw on Tuesday night was obviously delayed due to a church burning down in France.
We're really against France on this podcast, aren't we? By the way, I love when you say shots fired against the French. I thought you were going to talk about Agincourt for a minute there. But
historical reference. I like it. Drawn Dewsbury Rams away. It's going to take place on a Friday night under the lights. I do like a good night game over at Dewsbury. You happy with that draw?
Very much so. Very much so. I'm not going to stick my neck out as much as I did for the London tie, but because it could be a potential banana skin because
week before the summer bash.
Exactly. Yeah, and Dewsbury no mugs. They always won for the performance at the Shea. Lee Greenwood, obviously, Alex Fax player. Rob Warrensy. You've got Liam Finn. There's lots.
They're a bit of a bogey team for us as well in cup games. I seem to remember that we went over there all guns in like a Northern Rail group game a few years in a row and got turned over. So
it's a tricky game to play. Again, last year apart, really, I can't remember us having the best of times over at Ram Stadium. And with the side that Greenwood's creating over there, with the Paul Sykes and Liam Finn at half-back, and he's been clever in the loan market and the dual reg and that sort of thing there, the much maligned dual reg. He's building a decent side there, and I don't think it'll be an easy game. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I think it's very much a winnable game, and hopefully, and the main thing is that it's a championship side through to the next round.
That's it. It's a chance at a quarter final of the dreaded cup.
Yeah, which will be televised because the BBC Sport are doing 2 and then Sky are doing 2. We could get one of the big boys. It could get Leeds at home or Catalan away.
We can dream, can't we? But yeah, like I say, it's a good chance for us to go through. It's an ideal draw for us. Maybe the only other draw, if you want to get through, is Doncaster, who got a fantastic trip to Catalans. Yeah, I'm happy with the draw. I like the fact that it's a Friday, gives us a chance to get some rest before the big derby in Blackpool.
Day before Bradford, this rest comes in very much into our advantage, really.
And we're going to end up having to play a lot of games in a short space of time as the season goes on. And as I said, young Jedi, wisdom will reveal itself as time goes on. But then again, so will our big squad. So we'll live and die by the pen rather than the sword, so to speak. Just one final point on the Challenge Cup. I just want to give a shout out to the supporters that have set up a night for Fax legend Lance Todd winner Graham Eady. Has been taken ill in Australia. Is having to have surgery and won't be able to work again as a result. So having a fundraising night at Claremont Club on the Friday the 3rd of May, 7:30 p.m. start. There's a few bands on, I believe, and a DJ, and there'll be an auction and a raffle and all to raise. It's free entry as well, all to raise money for a fantastic bloke. So.
Yeah, there's also a bit of a raffle at the old post office this coming Good Friday as well.
Forgot about that.
Before and after, I think it's mainly after the Bradford game. Not as much as the Claremont do, but after the game, which hopefully will be a big win for Halifax. Get yourself down to the old post office. Where it's an 80s night, can't wait. But there'll be a bit of raffle and a bit of auction there for Graham Eady as well. There's also fundraising going on down under as well in Manly, because he's a rugby league immortal down there. I think he's got voted the best player for Manly's for the century for Manly or something daft.
And they had a bucket collection at the London game as well.
They did, yeah.
All fundraising efforts for an absolute legend of the game, and it's fantastic that they can give this back to a guy that gave us so many memories. And without further ado, I keep saying it's Derby week. The Derby is back.
Red letter day.
I've not been talking any smack just yet. I'm waiting to see when the squads came out, but I've got a few bulls on speed dial waiting to go to. I cannot wait for this game. For me, it's the first time we're about to play. We've got a bit of form. We've got a lot of injuries. We're going to play one of our so-called the teams battling it out for the top 5. We haven't beaten one yet. We're at home. It's a must-win game, wouldn't you say, Mike?
Stars are aligning, aren't they? It's going to be an absolute belter of a game, and I genuinely hope, and I think there will be a massive crowd there. I hope we break the 5,000 barrier, to be honest with you, because Bradford will bring a lot over.
And the weather's supposed to be fantastic as well.
Yeah, it's like summer already, but we're not Bradford a lot, but one thing they do is travel in numbers, and they will come over and they'll want to put one on us.
Well, they'll expect to turn up and fresh from their victory over Fev in the cup themselves, getting a big tie, but we'll gloss over that one because
very much so.
It's Derby week. Let's not talk about the enemy.
True, and I hope that a lot of the fans that have kind of stayed away for a while, or fair weather fans, or big game fans, whatever, do come down and. Yeah, I don't care. You can tell a friend, tell anyone, get yourself down to the share, because even if you're neutral, it will be the game of the weekend. It'll be better than Wigan Saints on the telly. It'll be an absolute cracker. I cannot wait.
It's going to be absolutely bouncing down there. I want to ask the point. There's been loads of social media campaigns and stuff this week about the old clips. I want to know, what's your favourite Fax Bradford memory? Because Nick Barber said it last night, didn't he, on the radio show? Fantastically, he said it's a chance for some of these, especially the lads, the Halifax lads. It's a chance to go and write yourself in our folklore. Yeah. You know, we remember the Tyra and the Schuster and so anyway, without going on too long, which is your favourite? Which one stands out the most?
Honourable mention to Tyra, because he's becoming a legend, and he's got 2 already, and that last minute interception to win the first game for 17 years, and also the hat trick at Odsal as well.
It was a bit of an inside job, that one, wasn't it? It was Fax lad Adam O'Brien passing the interception, thinking, we're comfortable in the playoffs. Let's give Fax this one.
Exactly. Yeah, I think my favourite memory would be Simon Baldwin dropping the goal to win 21-16, May 1998. The game was won already, but second row forward Simon Baldwin just knocking over that drop goal, the ultimate of taking the piss, basically.
Oh, absolutely. Mine's a drop goal as well, funnily enough. My first ever Fax game, Odsal it was, so obviously not from all in those days, like we are at home this week. John Schuster dropping a goal.
With his weaker foot. They'd had the bus planned. They'd gone unbeaten at home all season. It was my birthday, first ever Fax game. They announced it on the tannoy at half time that it was my birthday. I think I was 6 years old, and Richard Farrell, 6 years old today, Halifax fan. All the Bradford fans booed me, booing a 6-year-old on his birthday. But the thing that got me were that the Bulls really thought they'd had that game won that day. Oh, of course. I seem to remember Bullman came in on a helicopter.
Well. And you just saw the Fax front row growing a foot each. They were like, we're having you today. You're not making fools out of us. You saw Carl Harrison just like with the eye of the tiger and just sick of it. I would love what we're thinking for Friday. I would love, who do I want to kick the drop goal? There's no Scott Morrell, so who kicks the drop goal?
I don't care. I've said it before. I don't care if we win by 1 point or
Adam Tangata. No, not yet.
I'd just like someone to do it. QLT. Let him have it.
There we go. You heard it here first from the oracle in the corner that gets all the scores right. QLT drop goal, lump your money on.
I don't think a drop goal will be needed unless it's to take the piss. I think there'll be plenty of points in the game, but I think we'll win easily. I guess 38-28. I think there'll be plenty of points there, but I think it's very much going to be a Halifax win.
What you reckon, Jack? You going to be following the big derby game?
Hopefully. Where can I catch it? 'Cause I'm in
Shea Stadium, Halifax, 3 p.m. Good Friday.
Yeah, I'm going to catch that.
Good lad. Love it. Fax legend over here. Get on the pitch at half time, do your rounds. I'm sure the club will...
push on, push off. Yeah.
That's how it... Push on, push off. That's the way to do it. Is that your motto, is it? Push on, push off.
Just keep pushing.
Just keep pushing. Just keep pushing. I can't wait for this game. There's going to be a fan zone as well down at the ground, and it's going to be bouncing. So it's definitely the place to be for your rugby league this Good Friday. It stands to be a fantastic.
Wigan Saints, just you record it on telly. Come to a game.
Get to a game. Beautiful sunshine, real atmosphere, because nothing beats being at the game.
Barbecue at the old post office as well.
That's the way to do it, and a few blue shots for a victory, hopefully at the end of it. We're a very inclusive show here on the Fax of Life. If you haven't noticed, we've had lots of different guests over times. We cover a lot of topics, so we've talked about our stalwart wheelchair team, our all-conquering wheelchair team. We've talked about our stuttering but recovering first team. We've had some good reserves results, but since our last show, it's been a few weeks now, we've had the first ever game and the first ever victory for the Fax women's team.
Yes, good lasses.
Winning their first game against the Whitley Bay Barbarians down at Brighouse. Fantastic result for the ladies. They came on the radio show with Martina and Sarah down on your show, Mike, and spoke really well. Sounds like they had a tough time of it. A much more experienced and a much further along in the development Keithley Albion, who sadly went down in the second game, but 1 from 2 so far. You'll take that, won't you?
Of course, yeah. And they said on the show that they're not going to win every game and that, and it's mainly about the performances that are going through, really. But they've had some very, very impressive performances there, and long may it continue. It's just great to see them all in the Halifax kit. It's the same kind of design as the first team, as the men's team. And the thing that's getting me is that the team spirit of it. There's been lots of social media stuff of them all getting
I've
the
seen
shirts.
one big hit. Did you see the hit?
Oh, massive, yeah. But the team spirit seems to be really good, and when they got the shirts presented at the potting shed all together, it's very, very exciting, and hopefully there'll be a double header before a first team game, not too
Absolutely.
future.
I love the fact that you see the Fax DNA running through them, that they are a tight knit bunch that may be up against it at times, but they're still going to fight through the adversity. So, well done, girls. Keep up the good work.
Yes.
It's great to see that they're developing young rugby league players in Halifax. And like Martina said on the show, if you want to go back on Podbean and check them all out, they are fantastic. Listen, saying that the main thing that we'll see in the coming years, and I'm sure when it comes to the wheelchair game as well, that there are players out there at a fantastic standard that all come out and represent our hometown club. So that's what we want to see. Let's talk about then. We've mentioned the Bulls and what we think about that game. It's Easter time. 2 games in 4 days. We're up against it. Maybe some might say, but you're looking forward to it, Mike. You're straight on the plane, I believe. We go to Toulouse on Easter Monday.
Yeah, very much so.
Back to the scene of the crime.
Yeah, it's back to the scene of the best experience ever watching Halifax, the more I think about it, the more we've got a chance. Toulouse are playing Sheffield on Good Friday as well. Always a tough fixture there. Sheffield doing very, very well.
Yep.
They're having to fly out as well, even though they're going to their home. It's still travel time there. I just mentioned before, I think the stars are aligning that it's going to be 4 from 4 over Easter weekend, and if we don't win over there, I've got the melting pot. I've got Desperados and melting pot. It's all good.
Yeah, I wish I was going myself. It's a funny one. It's a very tough place to go and go. As we know, we've won there in previous years, but we've only had the sole victory at the current stadium in Blagnac. Blagnac?
Yeah, Blagnac.
Blagnac. Whatever
By
it's
the
called.
airport.
We're getting shots in at the French. I can't even pronounce your town's name. Get over it. I think we're going to be up against it, but we're going to go there with the right attitude and turn up, and we'll see what happens. I'm expecting the weather to be hot, and I think the crowd will be hostile, and
bring it on.
Absolutely, yeah.
We're having a hostile crowd on Friday.
You mentioned the word momentum. It's just about if we can get on a roll now, and we're by the looks of things. I don't know when you're listening to this podcast; it might already be announced, but there's some fantastic news coming in the coming days. Keep an eye out for that one on the club's site, I'm sure.
The worst kept secret in
the
Rugby
worst
League.
kept secret in Rugby League, even though it's been written about forever. But we'll have him back.
But talking about the Toulouse game, again, I'm going to come to one of your bugbears, Rick. It's the advantage of having a big squad, and they seized the package. And again, the massive advantage of performing so well against London is that the reserves that have come in a stake in the place. And Marshall's got an embarrassment of riches now, where if we do have a ridiculously physical game against Bradford, which I'm fully expecting, it's going to be an absolute rip-roaring game, that he's got he can call upon the likes of Curtis Davis to come in and play hooker, because Benny Kay and Brandon Moore might be absolutely knackered. He's got the likes of Liam Cooper to come in, Connor Davis if needs be, and those sort of guys there that it can swap things around. So,
well, I've got a point I want to make, because we sort of touched on the way that rule changing might be a bit more reactive than proactive in rugby league. I've had the issue that, do you not believe that since the reduction in interchange, we've seen a hell of a lot more injuries across all leagues?
Possibly. Injuries are part and parcel of sport,
well,
really.
The point that I wanted to make was that they brought this in with the idea that it'll tire the big men out and create more space for the faster, more skillful players to create better tries and whatnot. But all it's doing is taking juice out of the whole team, because the way that the game's structured now is it's all about the wrestle and getting into the ruck, and everyone has to do their share because they shift the ball of defensive work. That I don't think you're seeing what it was brought in to do. I think you're seeing the byproduct of that is that players that that might have been carrying niggles and been able to get away with it if they could have a couple more minutes on the sideline. It adds up over a year, and now not being, because they're being asked to play longer minutes, cope with more hits. There's more games than ever this year. It's too much for me. I think they've done too much too soon. What do you reckon?
I disagree with you. I think it's better that there are fewer interchanges. The thing that gets me, and again it's been highlighted this week into the social media, is the tackle technique in the wrestling and the tackles, and also the horror tackle which went on for Fifita, which he done on
he
social
rightly
media.
described as
that's what's going wrong. And as I say, players want to play. Players do not want to come off, and that's the sort of thing they put, as you well testified, Jack. People, they're willing to put the bodies on the line, no matter what sport it is, whether it's wheelchair rugby or full blown contact running rugby. People want to play, and it's those sort of tackles which need stamping out the game, really, rather than the injuries that might come because you're a little bit tired, really.
Yeah, I have to just mention one of our players, Robert Hawkins. It's a young 16-year-old kid now. He's got MS, like deteriorating disease kind of thing, so he's always no energy kind of thing, but he's coming up to training every single day and he's playing games, but he's playing full 80-minute games now because we don't have a big squad, and the kid's having to sleep for 3 days after that, and he never once slows down, and it's just that's what players will be able to do, and that's what when they need to do it, they will do it.
Puts it on into perspective, doesn't it, really? And as I say, that's really, really inspiring. But going back onto your point there, I think with these rule changes, it's not going to change things drastically overnight, really. I think the proof in the pudding will when it gets to the playoffs, really, and you will get players, but it's full contact sport, and players will do that, and they are finely tuned athletes, really. And I disagree with that point there. It is the actual tackling technique which needs sorting out, really. Yeah,
especially where Wigan are concerned. Although if you believe Adrian Lamb, they haven't got a problem, but that's a story for another podcast, isn't it? Just coming back on to Toulouse, then, are you going to make a prediction? You think we're going to go there and put up a good performance?
Momentum's with us, unless we get battered against Bradford, which I genuinely, even with blue and white tinted specs on, I don't think we'll get battered, and I dread to God, I hope we don't.
I think the thing about Bradford as well is they played Sunday, we played Thursday. 3 days rest before a game like that, a big derby game where you've got to put it all on the line, big, ferocious crowd. That rest is going to come in towards the back end of it.
But we go out there with no pressure, really. No one expects Halifax to go to Toulouse and win, no matter what stage of the season it is or anything like that. They don't expect us to go and win. Anything's a bonus. If we play with the same sort of joie de vivre, as the French may say, as we did against London, then we've got every chance, really.
Absolutely agree. One man that knows what it's like to play in front of a what would you call it? A partisan crowd.
If in France, as usual.
In France, is our man Jack, who's obviously won all your awards. What's it like to play over there? What's it like? Is it different to the game over here? It's a bit of a strange, really. Like the French seem to be the leaders of the wheelchair game, like Australia are the leaders of the running game. It must. Do they look down on the game in England, or do they respect it?
Yeah, definitely. There's always a to and fro with England and France. There's been a long rivalry since the sport was developed, but it's always if they come over. Well, we've got a game in June. We're playing them in June over there. But we were supposed to be playing them over here, and they've refused to come over here because they think we cheat and we pay off the referees and stuff like that. So there's a real bitter kind of rivalry between the two. Do you
think that drives the competition?
Oh yeah, because all of the other teams know about it. All the people who follow Wheelchair Rugby League know about it, and one of the guys in the England team, Sebastian Bichard, he lives in France. He plays in the French league, so he's like my inside man. So he's talking to these.
Well, not now you've named him, he'll be getting strung up like the KGB. We have found an insider. That's my KGB voice, and I'm sticking to it. I mean, in terms of like the way the crowds perceive you, are they hostile?
They absolutely hate us. I mean, I don't know many French swear words, but I can imagine. But the World Cup 2017, I think it was about 4,000 angry French fans just screaming at us, and it's like it sounded like shit that Barmy Army down at Shea when you got the drum going and everything like that. They were really on us hard. They hated us.
That's got to be an experience though, you know, being able to play in an atmosphere like that. It's got to be something that you thrive under, you know.
Me and Wayne sort of have a nice way of looking at it, sort of, because we've been involved in this rivalry with France for all this time. And if we're annoying French people, we're doing our job. So,
and let's hope that the Fax are doing that on Easter Monday after the game. I seem to remember we went over there that time and we beat them. They had when they thought they were going to wipe the floor with us, they had barbecues planned and parties and patio parties. And as soon as we beat them, miraculously, oh no, we've no food, and all the bars shut, and we were like, oh, what do we do now? You've got a party
back
planned.
to the melting pot we go.
Back to the melting pot we go for a few shandies. There's been some other big rugby league news this week. The two retirements we should say of two greats, one Australian, one in this country. We're going to start with down under because we're keeping things away. Greg Inglis, as you've said, Mike, you think future immortal fullback out of South Sydney Rabbitohs, Australian legend, World Cup winner, has retired, announced his retirement from the game. The boy was a freak of nature, wasn't he?
Queenslander as well. Yeah, absolute. You make it right, absolute freak. I think he's the closest guy that's come to Jonah Lomu in terms of a physical specimen. You look at him and he looks like a forward.
There we go. I've found our equivalent for Jack Brown in wheelchair rugby league. Greg Inglis, yes. The Greg Inglis of wheelchair rugby league. That's what you are now.
There we are. But no, absolute freak of nature and just a real good ambassador of the game there as well. And he's terrorised the English and New Zealand defences and New South Wales defences for years and years and years. And it's a shame that it's a shame when any player has to retire, but it's also it's a shame that they have to retire on terms of injuries. They don't retire on their own terms, really. And quite rightly, he's given an ambassadorial role or coaching role with South.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see he'll still be involved in the game.
And no doubt he'll be involved in the Mighty Maroons camp from years to come. But no, absolute shame that he's been lost to the sport. But what memories! And
you mentioned as well about how much of an inspiration that guy is. I think one of the lasting images was in the World Cup challenge against St Helens, where he shook the mascot's hand and had a quick chat with him on picked up by the Sky cameras. Really inspiring, and just to see that look on that kid's face, it were on cloud nine. I mean, it's like you say, it's a shame, but I think we saw the best out of him, and when it's time, and
it is, and it's going to be the end of an era, because we've had in very quick succession, we've had Billy Slater, Jonathan Thurston, now Greg Inglis. There's only
Cooper Cronk
left. Cooper Cronk as well, yeah. Cooper Cronk's still going in a while, and Cameron Smith, but it's really going to be an end of an era, really. But those guys retiring gives more of us chance, us pommies, to get stuck in.
Well, speaking of end of an era, Friday, Saints v Wigan sees the final calling card in the career of rugby league commentator, the voice of rugby league, Eddie Hemmings.
Yeah,
he's been there since it began. Obviously, as part of the famous duo Eddie and Steve-O. Yeah. I mean, for me, he's done a fantastic job. Yeah. He's maybe coming. I think it's the right time for him to finish as well. I think he realises that it's about time to pass it on. I mean, he's an absolute legend of the game, and for me, will always be the voice of rugby league.
Of course, yeah. You've got in terms of our generation as well, the older generation. You've got your Eddie Warings and Ray French and stuff like that. But Eddie Hemmings is just he absolutely, I say right, absolute legend. And the biggest compliment that you can pay a commentator is that you get lines quoted at you. Kenneth Wollstone-Holmes they think it's all over. It is now. Eddie Hemmings has got East Wide to West.
Got Martin Tyler Aguero.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he's got that moment in the sun, and absolute sterling service.
And even better that it were against the Bulls, you know.
Oh, very much so. And it's great that you mentioned like the old videos that have been posted online. A lot of it has Eddie Hemmings commentary on it, and it's a shame that he's not commentated on more Halifax games recently in terms of us being Super League. But very, very happy retirement.
Yeah, absolutely. Hear to that. I just want to mention some of the memories I've got of his time during his commentary days. I thought arguably the one that stands out, and I messaged the Sky page earlier to say if you don't have that as part of his montage, you're absolutely loopy. Was when I believe it might have been Bradford actually played down in London on TV, and Phil Clark said I think one team was 30 points to 6 up with 20 minutes to go, and he says, "Oh, if these win this game, I'll walk home." They pulled it back. They had a kick from the touchline to win the game, so he went down to the touchline and started putting the commentator Phil Clark did, and that was absolute TV gold. And Eddie just made, he kept it building and knew exactly what to say at the right time. But like you've already mentioned, I think the one that'll go down in history is the wide to west.
Yeah, that is one that I've got two personal highlights of Eddie Emmons actually. One was, I can't remember, I think it was at Hull KR, and Eddie and Steve were jabbing away like they always do, and I think Eddie goes, "What do they call the train station in Hull, Steve?" And Steve just deadpan goes, "Hull." And then obviously this will be played in his montage. It was when in the good old Boots and All days they went to Knowles Safari Park, and Steve-O was in with all the ostriches, and the ostrich bit his ear, and all you could hear is Eddie Hemmings laugh. And he says it's the funniest thing he's ever seen. That was absolute TV gold.
I've just written that down there. That's what I say. Thanks for the memories. We'll always have the ostrich video.
Exactly.
Rumours to replace him. I've heard Bill Arthur.
He does an all right job. He commentated it. We hear his intro every week, don't we?
I don't mind him to a certain degree, but I think now's the time to branch out and get a new voice into rugby. The bugbear that I've got with Bill Arthur is he ruined, again, a good commentator is knowing when the moment's there and being able to identify it and make it a piece of history. The game, I think it was Hull KR versus Salford, £1 million game. The great comeback where they scored in the corner to equal it. They had a chance to kick the goal. This you're talking about getting relegated, and as he's scoring, Bill Arthur's quotable commentary was, "That's got to be forward, surely."
Right, fair enough.
So it's just he has these opportunities, and I think he's had his chance to be. If he was up to the job of being the main man, he's
knocking on as well.
It's a rugby league thing, innit? It's jobs for the boys. You sit in this chair for so long until he goes, and then once he goes, you move up a chair, and then they're all just fighting for that bottom chair. You yourself, you keep saying you're going to be on Sky one day. That's a dream. But then he also says,
"Give me the job."
He also says that Sonny Bill will be signing for the Blue and White of Halifax.
If you want commentaries with plenty of on, then I'm your man. Yeah, I can commentate on wheelchair rugby.
I think they'll be erring on the cautious side personally, but there we go. So just before we go, then you did have mention you had a shout out to give, Mike.
I do, yes. My good old friend Pete Jones is exiled down in Devon at the moment. Him and his wife Jules and family there, and they have a good old interest in Devon Sharks down there, and they have got their first pre-season game against Somerset Vikings on the 27th of April. But they do a very good job down there. Before Pete arrived, they had a kind of burgeoning rugby league team there, but he's completely transformed it. They're playing blue and white hoops, which is always good. They've got the Halifax crest on the shirts, because when Pete was kind of involved with the club when he was up north, he did a lot of good work into getting a good partnership going down there. So if you are listening down that way, down Devon and Cornwall and all that malarkey down there, who cares if it's not in Yorkshire? Really? If you are down there, please do get involved with Devon Sharks Rugby League.
Yeah, check out their social media feeds. They do a fantastic job, and anyone that's willing to get out there and spread the game, no matter which level, which type of game, whichever code, we're all for. Unless you live in Canada, according to some people. But that's another story. We'll come on to that expansion in another show. Just before we do call it a night, I want to just touch on, you mentioned before, Jack, about Fax Chat, which is your Wheelchair Rugby League YouTube page where all your content's going up. What can we expect going forward to see on there? There's loads of content on there. People should go check it out, right?
Yeah, well, it's one of these things where we're trying to create scope for the wheelchair game, and one of the reasons I've come over here today to see you is to get an idea for these podcasts and how we can start our own one in that as well.
We're happy to help. Yeah,
and but we've got all our games on there. We've got little highlight videos, interviews, and things like that. We're going to be live streaming pretty much all of us home games. It all depends at the moment when we go to away games on whether we've got 4G or not, because we're doing it all from phones at the moment. We're doing it hard, but the the channel's just we've got a lot of good feedback from the wheelchair community anyway, and giving tips to new players who are playing and things like that. But we'll our next game's going to be 12th of May at Halifax. That will be live streamed, and everyone's free to come down. You don't have to pay any entry. There might be a couple of buns for sale as well if you want to get some of them. So.
And that's at Calderdale College. What time's kick-off?
It'll be probably 2ish, something like that. 2 o'clock.
2ish or something like that. And he'll just be there, don't worry about it.
They just tell me the day before and I turn up. That's how I work.
And that's how you win a World Cup, ladies and gentlemen. Don't believe this. Get up at 6 in the morning and just turn up. You'll win a World Cup. That's the way to do it. And for those out there listening that want more information on how to either get involved as a player or a coach or a volunteer or helping with funding, how can they get in touch with either yourself, Halifax, or the Wheelchair Rugby League setup? How can they find out more?
Everything they can find on the Wheelchair Rugby League website. Just put that in Google and it comes up here. It's quite hard to navigate through the official Rugby League website to find the wheelchair part, but just Google the Wheelchair Rugby League and it will come up. It's the first one. But if anyone wants to get in touch for sponsorships or help, or they want to find out any more fixtures, they can email me on rlfaxchat@icloud.com.
Fantastic. So you've heard it here first. It's our first, hopefully not our last, Wheelchair Rugby League player participation in the show. Another box ticked, as your sister Claire would say, Mike. But I tell you what, it's another show in the bag. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us, Mike, as always, and to the Greg Inglis of Wheelchair Rugby League, the World Cup winning legend, Jack Brown. Thanks very much for coming, Jack.
Cheers.
As always, thanks for listening, guys, and up the facts.
Up the facts.
Come on, the boys. We're